Thank you for joining us this evening on the program UN The Law. My name is Miriam Usman. Every week we bring you legal practitioners and together we explore what the law says about all of our activities as a people in Nigeria. What does the law say about your business, rents, landed properties? All of these and many more are what we explore every day, every week on the program. Today we're going to talk about one that concerns you watching or someone that you know. It has been a lot of conversation, it's stirred a lot of controversy in Ogun State, and it's high time we talk about it. Matter of fact, there's been a lot of conversation around it. People have been going from one court case to another because of this topic. And so it's very important that you pay attention to the next 20 minutes on this program as we have a legal practitioner to take us further on land documentation in Ogun State. What are those things you need to know? We understand that a couple of persons have, fall victim of doing this the illegal way. But like they say, ignorance of the law is no excuse. We're being joined on the program today by Barrister Ayo Adeshina. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Miriam, for having me. Good evening to Abeokuta people. Good evening to Nigerians from anywhere you're watching us from. Well, it's good to be back on this.
I know.
Yeah, it's good.
So few days ago, a few weeks ago, the MBA chairman, Abeokuta branch, I saw him on TV, and he was talking about land document. And, not just him, a lot of people have been talking about land documentation in Ogun State. Matter of fact, the government is doing a lot of things to ease land documentation for those who want to acquire landed properties in Ogun State. And we know there are certain laws that guide landed properties in Nigeria and then domesticated in states like Ogun State. So let's talk about landed documentation. But first, we'd like to know why is it important for anyone buying a land to get necessary documents? Some people just see some land at the plateau of gold and they just buy it just because it's cheap or it's in a very busy place, and they do not follow up in the necessary documentation. Years later, the government is on their case, and before you know, it's one case, court case to the other. So let's take it bit by bit. Documentation, land documentation, why is it important and what is it about?
Thank you, Miriam. All right, so basically let me start from talking about what happened a few weeks back.
Yeah.
Why the chairman of the MBA Abeokuta branch went to the court to prosecute some certain people. That's in the name of the Nigerian Bar Association. So these are people that are not authorized, to prepare documentations when it comes to land title, because actually the laws reserved the sole responsibility of preparing such instruments to legal practitioners. And so now this is why it is important. You cannot build something on nothing. So for every proper foundation or every legal transactions, more importantly when it comes to land transactions, it's important that you have your documentation in place, because without this documentation there is no way to prove or to not be able to prove your title to that certain land. Of course, verbal agreements, they are valid. Myself and my brother, we agree, you are selling, I'm selling. But when the crux happens, how do you prove ownership? You prove ownership by the document that you have. So it is important as a land buyer, as a real estate investor, that you have your documents handy anytime you are purchasing a land. In fact, it's not advisable you ask the real estate company you are buying from, oftentimes are not to keep for you. In fact, I advise people not to allow these people prepare the documents, because when it comes to land transactions, the onus is on the buyer to prepare the documentation.
So there are times where these people could do it in a way that it won't favor the buyers?
Yeah, of course. Of course, and the reason is because you cannot testify to the accuracy of what's documented. So if it's your lawyer preparing, your lawyer is going to protect your interest. If it's the real estate company lawyer preparing, or let's say in quote, the buyer's lawyers preparing, is going to protect the interest of the buyer. Little wordings like is, to, are can go a long way to define your liabilities, your strength when it comes to land transactions, land documentation. So it's important that you have someone that is going to have your interest at heart to prepare such documents for you. So that is why the law has speculated or has provided that in such situation, the buyer should prepare. So the law says it's the person that will suffer the greater loss if litigation arises that has the onus of preparing such documents.
Are we talking about all kinds of land? Because there are some people, let's use the average Nigerian man language now in terms of land buying. You hear 50 by 50, 50 by 25. This documentation, someone wants to buy a 50 by 25 plot of land, for instance, and then you tell the person to go bring a lawyer, which the person sees it as another way of incurring more expenses. Is it this get a lawyer, got a lawyer, get a lawyer? Is it just for, you know, lands that are big? Or, you know, there's just applicable for every form of land. Whether you're just buying 2 feet, 3 feet, you still need a lawyer.
Yeah, of course. Even if you are buying 1 centimeter, you know, because it's what validates your title. It's what go a long way to show or to prove in the nearest future when issues come up or when you want to do some certain stuff that validates that you are the owner of the land. Now, it's not only for litigation purposes, because some people will think, oh, when issue arise, that's when I need a land instrument. No, if you want to mortgage, probably you want to get an advancing loan from banks, you need instruments. So it needs to be a well documented. So it's not only when there's trouble on the land. You might need the document for any transaction. You know, some people might want to see some level of collateral.
Yeah.
Some people want some level of equity. So it's this document that goes to show the fact that you are the actual owner and that land belongs to you. Because if these documents are not in place, it might be difficult for you to prove that you own the land.
You mentioned before now that there are people who have been giving out or aiding documentation and they are not authorized. What does that mean? Are there some people that are authorized by the law to handle land documentation?
Yes, I've stated earlier, only legal practitioners. And I repeat, only. Whether you are an estate surveyor, whether you are a surveyor,
So what
whether
happens
you
to
are
those, sorry to cut you short, what happens to people who buy lands? For instance, in the north, there's what they call meungwa. The meungwa is like the district head, and I don't know how it happens over there, but the district head also has a right to some extent to sell lands.
they can sell. They are not to prepare land instruments. Anyone can sell land. You can own a land, you might want to sell. But when you are preparing documentations, that is legal documents to show or to transfer ownership in land, then it is only a legal practitioner, I repeat, only a legal practitioner that can prepare such documents, regardless of whatsoever qualification you have. You can be an accountant, you can be an engineer, you can be learned. You know, we are the only learned people when it comes to land documentation. So only legal practitioners can prepare. And you will be surprised that you would see many people by the roadside, you know, preparing documentation for land for some people. And even it's as bad as you will be going and you see some computer centers, they will have a signpost and they will say land documents, land agreements. You know, is against the law. And that is why we took the step that I was talking about, the MBA Abeokuta branch, to go ahead to prosecute some of these people that have been caught in the act. So if you are caught in that act, this is a warning to you once again, not to be caught, all right? You can do it, but do not be caught. Because the moment you are caught...
Don't even do it.
It's better not to do it, but that's why I'm saying that do not be caught.
We're going to talk about the penalties for doing it, but before we talk about the penalties, what is this documentation? What does it really entail? Okay, we've heard you. A lawyer has to do the documentation for you. So what is in the documentation? What is it going to cost individuals to get documentation? How long is documentation going to be? Are there renewals? What are those things we need to know about documentation?
All right, so when it comes to legal documentation, so the one the lawyer will prepare for you, it's with you, all right? It's yours. All right, so what you renew oftentimes or not is the certificate of occupancy. And you need this instrument, the one you get from a lawyer, that's the, whether OPA, that's land purchase agreement, or maybe a deed of assignment, you know, to be able to get a certificate of occupancy. So I'm going to talk about or clarify the difference between both, because this is some of the mistakes some people make. So if you are buying a land, you get a land purchase agreement. You get a land purchase agreement when you are buying from a family. So if the land is still under customary ownership, then you get the land purchase agreement. Because I've seen people who say that, why have you prepared deed in this instance? Why have you prepared land purchase agreement in this instance? So when you get a deed of assignment where the land already has a certificate of occupancy, All right, so you get it less the year that the person that is transferring ownership to you is holding upon the land. So then you are going to renew after the expiration of 99 years. All right, so that is deed of assignment. But when you are buying from a family, people that have not done a proper documentation, that have not gotten CFO,
probably they inherited the land or something.
So what transfer, or probably I've even gotten from someone who inherited from a family, but I've not processed my certificate of occupancy. What I get is a land purchase agreement. So to transfer title, to transfer ownership from the person that is holding, that's the vendor, to the person that is buying, which is the buyer. All right, so that is that. So now, the contents of this agreement, they are very important.
Very important.
All right, of course, because, you know, when we were in law school, they taught us all these things. In fact, they taught us that we should recite it often. So, all right, so we have the parties. That is the first point of call. Okay. So the parties is the vendor and the seller. Okay. All right, and it's only a lawyer that can accurately determine, you know, coin the word, you know, that you can use to transfer title. Okay, let's say, for example, it's only a lawyer that will tell you that it's only a family head and two principal members that can transfer a valid title. It's only a lawyer that can tell you that where a family head is transferring, the contract is voidable. Where there is no family head involved, it is void ab initio. So sometimes people buy, they just, because you are going to a roadside, you know, person, you are just to do, they will just write, oh, Mr. Shade, Mr. Fola, sold to, without having recourse to the fact whether it's a family head, whether it's a principal member, because the principal members are the people that are holding positions in the family. Every family has an administrator, all right? So it is only a lawyer that will tell you where the person has died interstate, the kind of person that can transfer. Are they administrators? Are they executors? Who are these people transferring? So you need a lawyer, because if all these clarifications are not made, you can have a document and you don't have a valid document. So only a lawyer can provide you or can prepare for you a valid document. And this is what scares people. What scares people is the fees of lawyers, because they feel, lawyer will charge me too much, lawyer will charge me too much.
Is it true or not?
No, now this is what is obtainable. A lawyer will charge 10% of the purchase price. 10%.
The purchase price of the land?
Of the purchase price of the land.
Wow.
10% of the purchase price of the land. So now, where the price is above 5 million, there are concessions that can be made.
Okay.
But where it's below 5 million, you are to charge 10%. If it's 100,000, 10%. 200, 2 million, 10%. 3 million, 10%. 4 million, 10%. 5 million, 10%.
This is definitely an eye-opener, 10%. So
10%.
I can argue it anywhere.
It's 10%.
Okay.
It's 10%. In fact, it's beautiful that even the people that are not lawyers will charge you 10% because they are linking you to the buyer and they are not doing anything. They are just middlemen. Yeah. But the person that is going to prepare the document that will determine whether you own that property, you are afraid to pay the person.
Well, how is the lawyer going to know that this land is purchased for those amounts?
You will ask.
Okay.
You will ask, of course, because if you change yourself, you are changing yourself, because remember, it's going to be a valid document. Let's say you are buying, you are buying for 20 million, and you're not coming to say you bought for 10 million.
Exactly.
All right, how would the lawyer know? Of course, the lawyer will not know, but you are changing yourself, because there will come a time that you might need to sell. And the value on the document is what is what is going to happen. So at the end of the day, you are changing yourself. You are not changing the lawyer. The lawyer will charge what is going to charge based on the purchase price, if he's not aware of the amount you are buying or you are getting from the seller. But if he's aware, of course, he will charge 10%. All right. So that is where the lawyer comes in. But people do not want to pay this 10%. If you can buy a land of 50 million, what will it cost you to get a lawyer that will probably charge you 5 million or probably 3 million to get a valid document?
All right, let's come back to the valid document. You mentioned a certificate of occupancy, and you also...
So yes, I mentioned the land purchase agreement and deed of assignment.
Deed of assignment.
So there is two distinguishing factors. So what determines what you get is whether that's the title on the land, whether it has already a certificate of occupancy. Where it has, you get a deed of assignment. Where it does not have, you get a land purchase agreement. So I mentioned that there is the parties, that's on the face of the document. Which is the first part. Yeah. Then there's what we call the reciter. All right. So if you have a landed property at home, a title document at home, just go and check parties. The place you see whereas that is where the reciter starts from.
Whereas.
Whereas. So you see between Mr. and Mrs. and Mr. and Mrs., then you now see whereas. So whereas.
That whereas, is it also the witness? Is it different?
No, it's not the witness.
Okay,
So
okay.
it is the reciter. That's where the reciter is starting from.
Okay.
So what does the reciter do?
What
The
does it do?
reciter will trace the history of the land from the start till the point you are purchasing. So it's what we call chronological chain.
Who brings in the reciter?
That's the job of the lawyer.
Okay.
That's why you go through a lawyer. So you are the lawyer will ask you question. The seller will provide, of course, because they have to trace the origin of the land. So let's say, for example, my father owns this land, and they were the first people to get on the land. I'm selling to you. You are selling to a third party. So there must not be a break in that chain. So your document must show that you got from me, and I, my father, was the owner.
Okay.
So if there is a break, let's say you are missing, and the person is now claiming, where is he claiming from? You cannot build something on nothing. You don't have a valid title because there is a break in the chain of transmission. There's a break in the chain of transaction. So it must duly follow. So anyone that is buying, if you are making a document for me, the first thing, in fact, some of my clients think my own is too much because I will ask them, who was the first settler? What were they using it for when they settled on the land? You know, they are using it for family. Okay, have they sold to anyone? Oh, how many wives does the man have? Does he have 3 wives? Oh, if he has 3 wives,
that's
okay.
serious.
Yeah, of course, you need to know. If it's the family that is buying, you need to know, because these are what can come back to bite you and speak to the validity of your documents.
All right.
later.
So first you mentioned parties, you mentioned the reciters, and what other things are we going to look at?
So after the reciters, we have the general covenant. All right. So that's where the consideration will be. That's where the terms will be. That's where what's expected of each party will be. That's where you know, the size of the land. You know, because you mentioned 50, lawyers don't determine that, surveyors determine that. So size of the land. So after that, there's what we call the schedule. So the schedule is a document that quotes, for example, that quotes every document that have been attached to the land. If there is a certificate of occupancy already, the schedule is where you will reference it, where it can be found, where it can be seen when you go to the land registry. If there's a registered survey, the schedule is where you will see it. The boundaries is in the schedule, you will see it. What's in the front, what's at the back, what's by the side. Because these are ways you can identify and you can say that this is my land. Without all this, you might not be able to identify the specificity of that particular land.
All right, let's, because time is really not by our side and we have to wrap up now, we're going to talk briefly about the consequences for those who get their documentation the illegal way. By the law, I mean, what do they stand to face as consequence or punishment?
Of course, at the end of the day, you might find out that you are not the owner of the land that you paid money for.
Which is obvious.
Which is
an obvious punishment for such.
Yeah, so that's the major. But for those people that are preparing that are no lawyers, you can get jail time and you can get fined. You know, because it's a criminal offense under the Nigerian law to prepare a lawyer, to prepare a land instrument where you are not a lawyer. So you must be a lawyer to prepare. So that is why it is, the onus is really on the people that are taking it to them. You know, they can be there, but don't take it to them. Because as long as they are liable, you are also liable. So
as I'm buying a land, I get a lawyer and follow up with the documentation.
That's the best
Again,
thing.
I'm going to ask, how long does it take for this documentation to work? Does it take like a 6 months period of time?
No, it depends on how fast you are in providing the information required or information necessary. There are times that as a lawyer, you might need to go and find out some due diligence, you know, by yourself. And the truth of the matter is, most people that are doing it by the roadside, they will not do those due diligence for you. I remember that I've been on a search, that's for a client. Of course, the client must be paying me well for me to do that.
I wanted to ask, so much work. Imagine having to go to a particular village that is not even developed already because the client takes you there, and then you have to start digging, and it's a whole lot of work.
Because you have to help, you have to protect the interest. That's why you must pay your lawyer well. Of course, we are not talking about, you know, if you have given 100,000, of course, it might not be too much for some people, but for some people it might be too much. Yeah. You understand? But if you are paying your lawyer well, I tell your lawyer well.
Okay, so you were talking about the space of time required for documentation?
Yeah, so I'm saying that it depends on how fast you can provide.
There's no specific time.
There's no specific time. If you can provide the information now, then all things being equal, and the schedule of the lawyer too, let's say 2 days, 3 days, you should be able to get your
All
documents.
right, we have to wrap up now. Are there any of this document that needs renewal at the cost of, you know, occupying these landed properties? Is it yearly? Can it be renewed yearly, or, you know, it's just one time thing and
It's
that's
one
the
time.
end?
Once you've done it, you've done it. And it's important that you have a lawyer seal on your documents. Because at the point of registration, that's what they will ask you. Because that's what shows that a lawyer actually prepares the document.
All right, we're going to ask that if you have any question or you would like to speak with a legal practitioner about a land documentation problem, I'm going to ask that we have please call your number for those who would like to reach out to legal practitioners for help.
All right, so if you need any form of legal advice, just reach out 0810 456 9644. 0810 456 9644.
Thank you so much for coming on the
Thank you,
program
Miriam,
today.
for having me.
Land documentation is a very interesting one. We couldn't open the phone line today. We definitely would have had calls and, you know, conversation around this. So this is the size of the program today, and I trust you've gathered one or two things on understanding land documentation in Ogun State. It's a criminal, you know, you could go to jail if you're found wanting of this offense. I'm talking about being involved in illegal means of land documentation. My name is Miriam Usman. Thank you for watching the program. I'll see you next week, God's willing. Until then, be a law-abiding citizen. Bye for now.